Business School, University of Cape Coast, member who is a member of the national the committee that was set up to form to handle the National Economic Forum. Prof, I was struggling there for a moment because I was wondering if you're still holding that position as dean of the business school. Are you?
No.
Okay. So you have officially handed over to someone who was taking over from you.
Yes, please.
Oh, great. Well, so Prof is, like I said, member of the committee that put together the National Economic Forum. And thank you very much for your time this morning. I hope you're well.
By the grace of God.
Well, great. What we understood from the very beginning was that whatever you did at the National Economic Dialogue was supposed to feed into the budget. You're not submitting a report. So how did that work?
So what happened was uh, an extract of the immediate uh, recommendations that will feature in the budget and other immediate policies of the government were submitted. So that's how it worked. And the rest of the recommendation, together with what have been submitted, is what we presented yesterday.
So now everything that happened at the forum, the relevant things are all included in this report that you've given to the presidency.
Exactly so.
Give us a highlights of some of the findings you made when it comes to where we are now before we go to what the proposals are for how we move forward, what you can disclose.
Well, we touch on a lot of issues in the macroeconomic setting. We talk about building confidence, which is on course. We talk about stable macroeconomic environment reflected in lower inflation, uh, exchange rates, and interest rates. And we can also see that that is on course. We have seen that interest rate has dropped for some of the banks. Lending rate has dropped for some of the banks. They were doing around 29% at the time of the forum, but as we speak, some are doing 22%, and the rest. So we have seen significant improvement in the macro environment, and more work will continue to be done to consolidate that gain, and that will spur the entire economy. We talk about infrastructure in two ways. New strategic infrastructure in the area of energy should be built, and the digital infrastructure should be built. And also, we talk about prioritizing some of the projects started in the past for execution to influence educational infrastructure, health infrastructure, and the rest in the country. And that also be clearly designed and announced. We talk about the issue of growth, diversification of exports, technology infusion, productivity enhancement, and focus on human capital development. So we focus on those areas. We talk about structural reforms, and the structural reform discussion actually featured two important institutions: the energy sector, uh, and the cocoa sector, because they face critical challenges that was having serious effects on the economy. So that uh, was to was to be addressed. So those things were highlighted. We talk about the governance in these two sectors. We talk about efficiency. We talk about private sector involvement in distribution only. We talk about governance in the cocoa sector. We talk about increased production and what should be done. So all those things have been earmarked. Then we talk about corruption and good governance, how we want to strengthen institutions, our governance framework, and then a robust fight against corruption.
So basically, you touched on basically every aspect of our of the struggles we face now. I realize you talked about is a private sector involvement in distribution in the power sector. You typically, when that discussion comes up, we are talking about ownership of the ECG or management of the ECG. When you say private sector involvement, what do you mean? Are you talking about in the ECG or the ECG giving some of its space to private sector to also operate?
We talk about distribution. We are not talking about management of ECG as an entity, but the distribution arm where the revenue leakages are. So the aim is to protect revenue and to infuse efficiency from the private sector point of view. So those are the things that were discussed. We also discussed issues relating to legacy debt, what we should do with EXLA. It was agreed that EXLA will have to be continued. EXLA was to be liquidated by the end of 2024 or so, but a decision was taken that EXLA was to be continued because in the first place, the purpose of EXLA was not implemented. EXLA was collateralized for other activities in the economy, which we thought was not the original reason for the enactment of the EXLA Act. So we needed to come back to the original plan to focus on the energy sector outstanding bills and to make sure that we are able to procure the feedstock for the energy sector. And we also reckon that if that is not done, we are going to create a problem for the economy. So the IPP goes to the banks to take facilities. They deliver power to ECG. ECG is not able to pay. These IPPs will default in the banks, and the regulator of the banks will trigger provisionings, and then some of these will be crystallized into non-performing loans. So we know that the energy sector debt and issue, when they are not handled well, it will bring about contagion effects in the economy. So I believe we have heard about the modernization of the energy sector Levy's Act to focus on delivery in the energy sector and then the payment of legacy debt and to bring about efficiency in the sector. And that attempt that was made, I think in Parliament 2 days ago, was to save the entire economy, not only in the energy sector, but to save the banking sector, which now has an average non-performing loan of about 23%, which is not the best, and a lot are yet to be crystallized into non-performing loans. So we need to take decisions that salvage the energy sector and have positive influence on other sectors of the economy.
Very interesting. And I guess you're talking about that one Ghana cedi increase in the energy sector levies, the amendment that was made. You're saying that was an important decision.
Exactly so. That does not mean that by the analysis of consumers, they don't have concern. But I believe the appeal to consumers, both domestic consumers, businesses, and the rest, the appeal is that let us make this sacrifice once to be able to salvage the energy sector, protect the financial sector, and then deliver efficient power to affect production. So that is how we need to look at it. So I think the appeal aspect is very important. And I also don't think that we should be looking at it that it is just one cedi, because some of these things are looked at from the point of view of volumetric effect. So the more you consume, the more you contribute to that. But I think it's a form of sacrifice to repair the economy for all of us.
How big is the problem in the energy sector? Because for you to pick out two sectors and insist that there should be some structural reforms there, you're picking out cocoa sector and then the energy sector. The president says the energy sector poses a huge stress and can collapse the whole economic structure if you're not careful. How bad was the situation you looked at?
Well, I think energy is sensitive to production, it's sensitive to enjoyment of life, it's sensitive to the efficiency of industries, manufacturing sector, and then also, as I explained earlier on, to the financial sector, and then the standing of the private sector. So it is so sensitive to all these things, and that is why if you salvage the energy sector, you're on the path to injecting productivity. You are on the path of protecting the financial sector. You're on the path to partnering very well with the private sector. And then also, you're on the path to sustaining jobs. So that is why it is critical. And I believe you have heard, since the president took charge of the economy, even before the handing over ceremony took place, he has flagged the energy sector and began to outline some of the problems that are being identified in the energy sector. I believe that is the reason why. So again, it's an appeal to all of us. There is a goodwill in the president because he has done it before. He sees the energy sector problem in the form of doing so. He has brought in critical intervention in the form of car power, etc., to the energy profile of the country. And he has promised Ghanaians that he wants to deliver. So making extra sacrifice to support the president to deliver on that mandate would be a good thing for all of us to do. And that does not mean that it does not affect us. It will affect us. I think the framework is that we are not going to see any of this development in the form of levy, taxes, and the rest. But revising the issue, it is so critical that we bring ESLA back to its normal use, and then to ensure that the revenue we generate is so enhanced to quickly resolve the problem.
Whilst you're trying to do this, because talk about distortion of the ESLA levy, the man under whom this was supervised, who under whom this was done, who actually supervised it, I guess I don't know if you've heard his own comments on it. One of the things he said it was said in the budget that, okay, let me read the quote. You said in your budget that you wouldn't introduce new taxes. You repealed the e-levy and now you introduce it under the guise of an energy sector levy and want to rush it through under a certificate of urgency. And he even calls it the doomsaw levy that replaces